And welcome back to Waaaghtaktiks Tactical Tuesday, where we're here to talk about how the Orks' rising win rate still holds well, yet away from the nerf hammer. Go over a few top performing Ork lists, and overall just give our thoughts about how the Green Tide is doing. But of course, let's give a shout out to today's sponsor, the Baron of Dice. The Baron of Dice help with the Waaaghtaktiks Dice and have made a big difference in our community and our ability to actually perform. So shout out to Baron of Dice and their great quality dice and everybody who's been supporting us. It's been showing, it's been noted. Of course, do our paint competition. Check it out in the Discord or in Facebook. You can go ahead and post them in the Waaaghtaktiks either community and at me, and we'll get them in our paint competition this month's flash skit. So that's coming up this Friday. Not this Friday, excuse me. This Friday, we have Fix My List, where, of course, you're a member. Go ahead and send me a screenshot of your membership. Give me some event details. That way I know what kind of terrain you're dealing with, some models you actually own, and, of course, key units or detachment, whatever it may be, that you want to retain. That way I don't destroy the fundamental core of the fun of your list. Of course, we always start off with giving our shout out to other successful WAAAGHs this weekend who were some 4-1. This actually wasn't this winning weekend. I failed to post these earlier. So these are actually about 2 weekends ago. But of course, these are Matthew McWaters with the Bully Boys and Joni Hastoff with Taktiks Brigade. So as of this weekend, thanks to Meta Monday, we have the Orks win rate sitting at a 49% win rate, boys. We sitting right on that line, right? We dangerous out here, but we're holding tight. We have a Cult to Speed making a little shout out. Co-players went out there, 31% win rate. Dread Mob with a 68% win rate. It doesn't show anything X and 1 on here, but we do have a 6 and 2 list that I like to cover. Shout out to Aussie, where the player actually sent me some details. So Dread Mob, that's why it has that good win rate, is because we have a great player going doing well on Aussie. Then we have War Horde sitting at a 56% win rate, but they actually have not only a GT win. Whoa, for the War Horde's first GT win since Taktiks Brigade been coming out, and actually, and I don't know how long it's been since they actually had a win. I'd like to look into that. So it's not their first one, but first one recently showing out, and then a couple X and 1 War Horde players. Taktiks Brigade falling back to a 44% win rate. 2 players going X and 1. And then Bully Boys 41 and Green Tide 20%, but that was only simply 1 player. But shout out to you kids who are getting in and getting on. So, of course, let's go on to the first list we're going to cover, which is Ashley Cross's Dread Mob. Yes, this is the Dread Mob list out of Down Under. So, of course, let's show off the event. So, Ashley ended up getting 21st right here, sitting at 6 and 2. So, good job holding strong after having a strong start. This was the Uprising and Adeline. Almost 200 players. It was, what was the math? 178 players there. So pretty heavy events. So good for Aussies out there getting together and getting stuck in. And Ashley was the top performing org player at this event too. Shout out to Hugh right there, right under. So with that being said, let's look at their list, because I actually do have some notes. A lot of games to cover. So Dread Mob making a comeback. I'm a big Dread Mob fan. Everybody knows that. So looks like we got some DACA going on here, Gits. We have a Big Mech. Big Mech, 3 triple Big Mechs with shock attack guns, triple solo baby mechs, and then Zagra Wartsnaga. We have 1 10-man unit of boys, a big brick of Gretchen for Zagra, and then 2 minimum size unit for Gretchen. Keep in mind that these are in fact battle line, right? So don't forget that. 2 trucks, and then 2 Death Dreads. And yes, Ashley absolutely loved these Death Dreads, so to the point that after playtesting 1, he brought more. So the reason is he was getting a lot of vehicles kills, a lot of elite infantry units getting bricked up on. He would constantly just choose to stay in and just ride the win. He didn't care. He wasn't scared to lose his gits, which no orc should ever be. So yeah, he ended up also having, we'll talk more about that. We had 2 5-man units of flash kits, a big 10-man unit of Luas, 2 units of mech guns. 1 is a 3-man unit with bubble chuckas. Bubble chuckas are pretty sick, honestly. If you get just about any of those data sheets that you have to roll out for, sustain or lethal, being able to access them makes any of those quite viable. So love to see it with the shock attack guns, giving also reroll ones. But then something we haven't seen in a long time, custom mega cannons. So a 2-man unit of mech guns with custom mega cannons. Yep, totally came back. I thought it was not enough AP. Ashley didn't see it, still ended up making it run. Of course, keep in mind we have Smoky Gubbins and then Get Finder Goggles as the 2 enhancements on this list. 2 5-man units of Storm Boys, and then 2 units of Tank Bustas. So I'm assuming each character is attached to each one of these units. I would assume, based off the notes from what I was seeing here, that they were going with the Tank Busters were going with the shock attack guns, and the Ludas were getting a shock attack gun as well. So looking up here real quick, we have usually they split the Tank Busters and the Flash Gits into one truck. So these were rolling SWAT teams, being firing platforms, really. Imagine if there's a solo mech somewhere running around. If they're not attached, they can end up doing secondaries. They can end up giving these trucks +1 to hit, so the things inside don't have to get destroyed. Very cagey there. Then we had more is the Ludas were also a great unit that he loved a lot. Putting them for Overwatch potential. Now, big firing lanes was a great deal. Zagra Warsnaga is straight up amazing. He just does his job well. Usually pushing up onto at least the mid-table objectives. People always fail to shoot them dead. So he ends up charging on the objective if they allow him to. So either way, Zod gets a lot of attention, which opens up a lot of people who start shooting at him or start charging him, which gives your U army plenty of targets. And then for the Death Dreads, keep in mind, triple custom mega blastas means 9 shots per, and they're getting sustain if the strat's needed. Of course, a lot of the time, the claw does come in handy if he has a charge somewhere. Kind of combined arms. Did not put them in reserve from what I can tell from the notes. Too often, actually just use them to get onto firing lanes. So it just position him in places where he can actually run out and fight, kind of get the game kick-started. Before this, he was using some killer cans and some Ludas, but he's flipped them over for tank bust to SWAT teams with the flash kits. Very reasonable and pretty awesome that you still ended up bringing the flashy gits. So, of course, let's go over the path to victory because this was a pretty fun list. A little bit out the box there. Triple solo mechs is a lot. So I was surprised to see that. So here we go with the path to victory. A little bit of notes on them. We'll look at the opponent's list and then see what Ashley had to say about them. So we have Adeptus Sororitas with the Hollowed Martas. We have Canonist with Jump Pack. Imagifiers, 2 of them, and then a Morgan Vol, followed by 2 units of Sisters of Battle, an Emulator, Double Castigator, and 1 Exorcist, a Paragon Warsuit unit, actually 2 of them, 2 Paragon Warsuits units, a Seraphim squad, Novitiates, and then Seraphim. Quite, standard in my opinion, what's going on with the Sisters of Battle army. But as for what the notes were on this, it was a solid start to the game. We're pretty much timed out by turn 4. There's a detail that you should keep in mind here. But his anti-tank ended up to come out and taking out the tanks. Sorry, Ashley's tanks popped out and destroyed a lot of those tank busts. The Sisters of Battle's tanks. There's enough chaff in front of the suits to slow them down so he can kill them, over time with Ludas and the mech guns. And then he ended up coming out on top when they timed out. Yeah, make sure I'm showing that. So ended up I showed this too early, guys. It's okay. So ended up getting a win right there, 60-point win. That's why the score was about 60 points because timed out by turn 4. A lot of stuff going on probably with dealing with sisters and their dice sometimes. So then we go into game 2, but I do suggest chess clocks, guys, just so you know. So then we go into the game 2 where he ends up taking a loss, but this person ended up doing quite well going to the top of the GT as well because he's running the Bridgehead Astra Militarum Strike Force with, the Scion Spam and such. So we have a Death Corp Marshal with Gaunt's Ghost. 1, 2, 3 Tempest Science Command Squads, Sly Marbo, a Tank Commander, and then Ursula Creed. So it hasn't really changed too much at all, even with the Codex incoming. We have Acadian Shock Squad one big brick of Deathcore Krieg. These guys are like a big delay unit. They have a 6 of Feel No Pain. They can regen guys. They can, I believe they can actually get access to an invul. Maybe is it from one of these guys? No, but nonetheless, they can still move fast and get up in your face and slow you down. A lot of OC, you guys know how that is when you're an Orc player. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Was that 4? Yes. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 4 big breaks of Tempestus Scions, followed by 2 Toroxes, which are now quite effective on their list. They allow you to like get out and shoot, I believe, and shoot. I gotta keep looking into it. So many new rules coming out, right? 1 Ghazghkull squad, 2 Ghazghkull squads, and then 1, 2 units of Tempestus Aquilon. So these guys are going to be throwing mortal wounds at you, kind of like free grenades, plus all their special weapons shooting at you, getting orders, plus the Ghazghkulls getting orders. You'd have to, I think you can get double with Ghazghkulls as well. So these guys just jump around and dismantle you. So you can imagine that an Orc player with squishy, kind of static units like those mech guns would have a hard time. Nonetheless, what the notes were, it was one of the worst defeats, in general that he's had. They were able to go into the sky because he went second. So the bridgehead player ended up going second. That means he was going second. And then they dropped down turn 1, 6 inches away from him. Took out a third of his army easily, and then he could do it multiple times. So it was one of the elite scores. One of those new armies you got to be aware of. No shame in losing to Bridgehead like that. But I think his third game is another army that gets kind of slept on, especially if you're not really familiar with it. Oops, I didn't mean to click. That was the second one. He ended up going into his third game, which was Slaanesh Demons. So these guys can be slept on because demons are normally said that they suck. There's differing opinions on this, but for the most part, if you guys are equally skilled and the person has the initiative, this can be kind of difficult. So you have 2 different core contorted whatever that's called, sorry. 2 Keepers of Secret. So Lexi Halbane, Slilax, the Mask of Slaanesh, and then Torment Bringer of a Chariot. So there's some contention if you even need like Shalexi Halbane, but she still hits like a trucks. Nonetheless, you have the ability with 1, 2, 3 units of Demonettes and then 2 Chariots. You can really get the fight first, initiative, run people down. There's also other builds of this that you should be aware of where they add Fiends and they drop some of those greater demons, and it allows the Demonettes to kind of pass the wounds off. The Fiends pass the wounds off to the Demonettes, and the Demonettes have access to a 4 up Feel No Pain. So it makes the Fiends very, very difficult to end up killing, so people can actually soak up a lot of your damage. Be aware of that as well. But as for this game, he said it was a very tight list. Yeah, that pretty much what happened was on turn 2, when the Slaanesh person exposed himself, Ashley was, unable to kill them effectively enough. They spiked too many invulns and too many Feel No Pains. One of the keepers was on 2 wounds, the other one was on 3 wounds. And then who else? Yeah, and the Battle Shocked let them heal each time as well. Yeah, you got to keep that in mind that whenever they fail a battle or have to take a battle shock test, they can heal wounds. Therefore, whenever your looters attempt to kill them, you're gonna make them heal D3 as well. So that's kind of annoying. Yeah, and so it was a very winnable game. Just failed to pretty much kill them, and then the enemy was just able to run him down. 77 points means he was still doing well, but I know how that goes. Where we've seen. That's a little bit of something I've noticed when you're playing with Ludas or these flash kits, these armies where you're like really going into the Orc shooting. Is that if you really just fail on these armies that are able to run you down and kill you after that, then it's like, oh, well, I have no follow-up if I don't shoot you to death because I can't just run up and punch you to death either. I'm just did all my damage right now. I'm in open. So it's cool. I like Dread Mob a lot, but that's something that can just happen. Nonetheless, great scores following this, especially after tough games, keeping your chin up. So Ashley going into round 4. This is where things start to get hot because this is where we start throwing up all the win points. So we have World Eaters, Berserker Warband, so with their new detachment. We have Lord Invocadus, a unit of Jackals, 2 units of Jackals, Corn Berserkers, 2 6-man units of Exalted Eggbound, a 3-man unit of Exalted Eggbound, and then 2 bricks of 10 Terminators, followed by 2 2-man units of Chaos Bonds. Typically, Terminators aren't like respected, but when they have access to Feel No Pains, they have access to, you know, a Blood Surge, for example, where they can move after they get shot. It means they can get down the field faster. They're very quick in World Eaters, where they can charge, advance, and charge, and put a buttload of attacks into you. So it's actually like a fun, you know, list. Mind you, you still have bricks of Exalted 8-Bound running around, and then jackals to sticky objectives as they run up the table. No characters, you know, I find it kind of respectable. You don't always have to run Angron. But Ashley's list on this was that it was a different World Eaters list that he was used to, because there was the Terminators, but the Grots still held their line and screened perfectly as they should, with Zod pushing them back and holding them. So he pulled up onto the angles and was able to kill multiple Termi squads. Yeah, he killed one Termi squad on turn 2 that came out. He killed it. And then when he came out into the screens, then the looters, the shock attack, mech guns, and everything worked on everything else that came out. So seems like that he was able, fairly equipped, to clean this kind of list up. You know, the mech guns, bubble chuckas, I think would actually get it to come into play. For once, they don't have to, you know, right, when we look at Ashley's list, we don't have to worry about the mech guns not getting line of sight and not being able to have good targets getting shot back. In this matchup, they could just post out right in the open and start shooting the whole time right when the screens start coming out. Right. And custom mega blasters. Hey, here we go with 99-point win on that one. Going to the 5th game. And that World Eaters list with Terminators can definitely win games, and it's definitely becoming common. It just seems fun, and it just hits like a truck. And that's kind of like what World Eaters like to do too, like Orc players, right? Sometimes, right? So we go into the 5th round, and it's Adeptus Mechanicus. So double Tech Priest Manipulus, 3 units of the Rangers, followed by a Dune Rider, a 10-man unit of Corpus Cari Electro Priest, unit of Iron Strider Ballistari with las cannons, and then a lot of points for this big break of Cataphan Breachers for 320 points, followed by another unit of Cataphan Breachers for 210 points. Seems like they just have different loadouts. Oh, well, these are Cataphan Destroyers, excuse me. These Cataphan Destroyers, cheaper. 2 units of Cerberus Raiders, followed by 2 units of Infiltrators, and then 2 Disintegrators. Real damage comes from these Disintegrators. Infiltrators make you take a battle shock test in the fight phase if you're within, I think, 3 inches of them, I believe. And then you also have the little horsies that can run up and kind of move block you and such like that. So as for Ashley's notes, he was pretty much able to hide very well and put his infiltrators into no man's land, but the trucks were able to move up and get line of sight, especially when the busters were able to move the truck after turn 2, when the trucks were able to move up, disembark, and actually shoot. Or when tank busters got out and they got out of a truck 3, moved 6, and then got line of sight on the Cataphrans, destroying most of the squad. That worked out for him as well. He said because he WAD turn 1, I shouldn't have mentioned this earlier. He WAD turn 1 most of the time simply for the 5-up invuln and for Zod to get table space. So keep in mind that turn 1, he got a turn 1 charge off on the boys to get onto the infiltrators, because on turn 1 he advanced and charged. And anything other than that, he just killed when they brought into line of sight. Just did tremendous damage. So that's something that really did change for us as Orc players that were playing Dread Mob, is that how the wall changed meant that we can't really call wall defensively anymore, right? So if you're a Dread Mob player, I relate to you, right? We used to love that we could kind of use it in a defensive manner for our Grot Hordes and such. But Ashley maintained the fact that he was calling this early, right away, turn 1, typically every game, to embrace the impact from the enemies, to get the initiative and get table space. So it's respectable. I like that. So then we move on, and it looks like that was a 100-point win. So now the last 3 games. We're getting to the last 3 games. So this is where he goes into an Ironstorm Spearhead Space Marines Ultramarines. Something that I hear about a lot about, on Discords or Facebooks and such, about how Space Marines are quite annoying with their massive rerolls and +1 to wound. And then here you actually have Ironstorm. Dread mobs don't always love playing into this because these guys are hard to kill. So it's Lieutenant with combi weapons for, I'm sure Dread mob, I'm saying it's kind of hard to kill. Lieutenant with combi weapons, Manius Calgar, and then Rebute Gilliman, followed by Intercessor Squad for the sticky objective. Triple Ballistus Dreadnoughts, excuse me. Company of Heroes, Incursor Squad, Scouts, a Storm Speeder Hammer Strike, and then triple Vindicators. So he said, tough game. Real first look at the army. It was real first look with the army, and he wanted to really take advantage of all his anti-tank here. The 2+ save is hard, especially because he can -1 in the hit from smoke. And with pretty much all the CP that he had access to, means he could do it all game. Pulled 1's line of sight. He put turn Vindicators right in the open turn 1. Didn't respect the Orc shooting, but he didn't end up getting killed. He ended up just getting mostly damaged. And then he used Zod, excuse me, I said Gratz. He used Zod to bait him out and to bring in Malleus Calgar into the middle of the table. And then Ludas overwatched a few of his guards, and then everything else kind of finished him off with everything that was standing on the objective. He said he full committed and finished off the other tanks turn 2. It was a tight score in the end, but he ended up winning. So it seems like that he really just goes for the damage here on the right when the game starts off. I know a lot of you guys kind of think about that for melee a lot, right? We can relate to that. We're thinking aggressive, and we got a wall turn 2 after positioning turn 1, and that's an aggressive game. And then you start losing your bodies and running down on the score. In this way, you can still play your shooting your Daka armies and walls to where that you're going to call the wall, in this case turn 1 defensively, and soak up the enemy's firepower. Use Zagrat as bait. A lot of the time, he's a really good Kickstarter because he's flipping objectives and tagging enemies, clogging up firing lanes, touching multiple units, possibly even killing units. Therefore, the enemies always kind of go for him, and you can go for them in response. And that's what Ashley really does. So Zod is fundamental, and even in this case, to get that going. Something else to mention is he did have access to plunging fire in some cases, and he would use his trucks to move up under a rune piece, and then when they would get out 3 up, and then they'd be able to get up on the rune, and that way he can get some plunging fire going on as well. That's a good way to try to counter some of the good armor saves that are going down and cover being everywhere, right? So then pulling that out with a 70-point win, taking down the Ultramarines with their double oathing ability. I love to see it. And you do have to be aggressive like that, because you have to take advantage of Overwatch constantly when you're playing with this kind of army with Dread Mob, or even the Tactics detachment. A lot of the time you want to take advantage of Overwatch. Therefore, you have to have the table space and units in position so you can do that. So he just went for all the damage and then figured out the score in the end. So I like that. We have then second to last game, going into the Tyranids. Sometimes a really stressful game for Orc players, as Ashley is going to describe here, especially because, turning off your primary when they want. So if they get a chance, you know what I mean? So very cagey game, staging and staying hidden for the Tyranid player. So let's look over here at the list. We have the Death Leaper, followed by Neural Tyrant, Winged Hive Tyrant, and then double Winged Primes, Tyranid Primes. 2 10-man units of gargoyles. These guys are good for taking space, and when someone's trying to play KG, they'll run up, shoot somebody, and then be able to move again after they shoot something because of their data sheet ability, and they do have assault on their weapons. Biovores, Exocrines, a 5-man unit of Gene Stealers, Lictors, 2 different Molochs, a Neurolictor, Raveners, which these guys also have, I believe, still have this ability to be taken off the table and put in reserves. So you have these Molochs coming in, plus the Raveners. So these guys playing KG. 2 bricks of the Tyraniid Bio Warriors with double melee weapons. They're led by the Wing Primes. These guys do punch quite respectably. Synapse, so they get up to strength 6. They have twin linked, so they're re-rolling the wounds. They can hit on 2s, re-roll 1s, and then they have access, I believe, to sustain if this is the right detachment. And then one big brick of zoanthropes to go along that neural tyrant. So that's his killing potential right there. Though he got some melee guys and then some exocrines in the neural tyrant for his Vanguard onslaught. So how this game was going out, like he was saying, it was KG. He was deep striking the Molochs. What he did bring out, though, got killed because Tyranids are pretty soft. He was leading in score because Ashley was able to draw good secondaries. So going second, he knew he can get good primary at the end. So the Tyranid player kept playing very cagey. And they were working out for him so he could actually win near the end of the game. Yet, in the last move of the game, the Tyrant came out for the first time just to touch the mid-table objective. And he overwatched with the looters and shock attack guns, getting a bunch of sustained and killing the Tyrant, stopping him from scoring 5, and then held the win by 3 points. Amazing game. That's what can happen when you're playing KG and controlling the table space, understanding that. So great job right there, Ashley, for putting that win away and understanding that it was coming down to the end and you were holding on to that score. So an 81-point win by the Skinny Yo Teeth. Great job, because that's a great way to finish that off, and make sure you secure that win against the Tyranids for an 81-point win. That must you guys should say in the comments right now or in the chat. Tell me some other game moment, ring buzzer games that you've nailed going off right there. Because imagine winning a game at a GT where the enemy's walking onto the mid-table objective and you're just overwatching with your looters and you're like, if I kill you, I win the game. If I don't, you win the game. I had one of those games where I was doing that with against Knights, with Imperial Knights, and my looters and shock attack gun. It was a damaged Luda unit, and I overwatched it and I killed it, and it was amazing. And that's how I ended up winning that game. Very cheeky. So I've had those moments too with looters. He was trying to charge me, so I overwatched him when he charged me. So and this, you let us know if you've had anything like that, because that's winning a game. That's why you go to GT and you remember those games, right? Especially that late in the event where you're just like, ooh, trying to every win counts. You're not trying to only go positive, but as positive as possible. So then you go to the end, the last game of the day. We have Imperial Knight, Canis Rex, Knight Lancer, 1, 2, 3 Helvrins, followed by triple Warglaves, Cladius Assassin, Eversor Assassin, and some Imperial Agents. So as for this one, pretty much he was able to take table space, drop double baby knights, and mostly killed the Canis Rex. Zod again acted as the bait to get the enemy to commit, and killed most of the small stuff that was coming out because the knight player was trying to play KG, so he didn't die too early. Eventually he sent Class the rest of what was left of Canis Rex to clear the table, middle of the table, and he ended up getting killed. And he got overwatched again and got killed by the looters and shock attack guns. So close game right there, but Luda's pulling off the game again for a 93-point win. Very tight until the end when he ran away with it. So nonetheless, let's go over Ashley's list one more time, because that's a great way to have the game going where you just finally understood the table space, setting up those firing lanes, getting off on multiple rounds, taking advantage of your units, maximizing them by being able to use that. So again, and remember, empty trucks on the objectives. So let's go over this list one more time. He has a Big Mech with the custom Mega Clan Power Claw. Who takes Power Claw, and then who takes the Drilla? You tell me, because usually the Drilla is pretty appreciated as damage 3. You guys let me know. We have triple Shock Attack guns, triple Baby Mech, Zagra, Warzenegger, a 10-man unit of boys for that sticky objective. Quite wise of you, because your army's dying. 22-man unit of Gretchen for Zod, 2 10-man units for Gretchen, 2 trucks, a Death Dread, 2 Death Dreads, which were definitely left on the table to come out, get firing lanes, get the game kickstarted, able to kill vehicles, threaten enemy units. Love to see that. 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, so they can act as a SWAT team with the 2 Tank Buster bricks that were going inside trucks for SWAT teams. Then you have the Luda unit that is also being attacked with a shock attack gun. 2 units of mech guns. One's a 3-man unit with bubble chukka, and the other one is a 2-man unit with custom mega blasters. Big Mech can go on there, let them walk through buildings. That would be fantastic. Attach the Big Mech to maybe the 3-man unit or the 2-man unit, because the 2-man unit's actually more likely to clear the whole building. And you get out into firing lanes that enemy isn't expecting. Custom mega blast cannon that can help you not get, get in lines of fire where the enemy's not in actually cover. 2 5-man units of Storm Boys, and then, like I said, the tank busters. So shout out to Ashley Cross for 6-2 Dread Mob. Whoa! For the rise of the Dread Mob. And keep going strong. Shout out to the Death Dreads that finally made their appearance again at a successful list in such a long time. And this list, keep in mind, Ashley suggested this list could be run in a Dread Mob to a certain degree. The new Waaaghtaktiks Brigade to a certain degree. So if you have any interest in that and putting your own twist on it, give it a try. Give it a try. Be a cunning git. All right. So then we move on to Jonathan Serbert, where he got first place at the Rose City Rampage. This was in Portland, in America. We had 40 players at this GT. And shout out because Lukas Troller got 3rd place with the Orks as well. So shout out to Lukas Troller. Familiar with him, great Ork player as well. So let's take a look at Jonathan's War Horde list. So War Horde's making a comeback this weekend. All them gits were like, what do you think you forgot about us? What's up? So there's contention here, gits. You let me know in the comments in the chat. Are you guys leaning War Horde, or are you guys leaning Taktiks Brigade for, the new Eldar coming out, the Guard being out, how they are? Who else? Those Emperor's Children are coming out. Like, let me know what you're thinking, because some of the tide is shifting to War Horde, and you guys let me know what you think. So we have double Beast Boss, and then a Big Mag with shock attack gun, and Ghazghkull Thraka making his appearance again. War Boss, and then Zagrat War Snagga. 2 10-man units of Beast Snagga Boys, 3 trucks, and a battle wagon with a Zap gun and an Ard case. Then a 6-man unit of Breaker Boys, of course. 10-man unit of Flash Gits. Still love seeing the Flash Gits being brought on here. A little surprising they're not brought in like a like 2 5-man units for SWAT teams sometimes, right? Some people, right? Still like that. Then we have a small Gretchen unit followed by 3 Mega Knobs with twin kill saws each. I actually appreciate that he paid for the other Mega Knob, right? Let me know if you guys agree, but a lot of the time I think Ork players are realizing sometimes it's better to just have a little bit more meat behind Ghaz, especially if you can afford it, to keep him more in the game. It cause more commitment from the enemy. It's like the perfect point cost, and the difference. So are you paying for your 3rd Mega Knob when you're playing Ghaz? Because I think you should if you can. So 2 5-man units of Storm, 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, followed by 1 Tank Buster unit, where the knob did have the rocket pistol and the smash hammer. I thought that I wouldn't be charging as much as I do with my tank busters. I've charged 2 out of the last 4 games I played with the tank busters, and it worked out fine, absolutely fine. So there are cases that can happen. Not saying to bring the smash hammer, but some of you guys love when stuff just looks cool. Go ahead and run it. You get. I promise you'll enjoy it. And obviously Jonathan did too. So let's go over his path to victory. So we have a bibliography right here on this top of this going on there. What the heck is going on there? Okay, so now we have a demonic incursion. Then we have a great unclean one with endless gift, keeper of secrets, Shalexi Hellbane, Damascus Slanesh, followed by 2 3-man units of Nurglings, 2 Plaguebearer units with that sticky objective, 2 Fiends, 2 units, minimum size units of Screamers, 1 Seeker, and then 1 Soul Grinder. And these are the minimum size units of Fiends. They actually do get Scout and -1 to hit as well. Should keep that in mind. I think when you have double Beast Snagga Boys, you can kind of imagine what's going to happen here, right? This is the the old detachment, so they don't have what we were speaking about, where they can shed mortal wounds. Shed wounds from the Fiends onto Demonettes. So that's definitely not in here. There's the old detachment. That's why there's endless gift. Nonetheless, he's annoying, but you don't have to really go for him. You just simply call the wall, have Beast Snagga Boys run out, they get lethal, they get sustained, they re-roll, they're killing multiple of these greater demons with no problem. You have flash kits to pick up Nurglings, to pick up plague bears, so they can't just simply walk out into the open and not feel threatened. Multiple trucks to break the distance, a battle wagon to be annoying for them to kill and have to commit to if they want to even kill anything that's inside, and then the breaker boys to run in and really crunch in the end or on the wall specifically to finish off any of these greater demons. So a lot of threats, and I could just see him overloading a demons player. That would be a rough one, right? But here's the kicker: game 2. So game 2, he goes into Lukas Troller, who is an excellent player. That's I believe he's been on Team USA before. So well-known orc player himself by 2 points, and then Lukas ended up winning the rest of his game. So I'd love to know more details about this. But that being said, we have Lukas's list. Sorry, I just clicked right past it. That was silly. So we have a tactical brigade, and he put, "I'm gonna bust tanks," and the showdown of the Taktiks brigade versus War Horde happened here. So we can see some similarities right off the bat. 2 beast bosses on Mr. Troller's list, with a big mech with shock attack guns, but 3 of them, followed by a basic mech as the Warlord. 2 10-man units of Snaggle Boys, 2 5-man units of Storm Boys, 5 trucks, 2 Breaker Boy units, a big brick of Flash Kits, 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, a Gretchen unit, 2 Gretchen units, 10-mans, and then 2 Tank Buster squads. So I'm gonna make sure I pull the enhancement out of here, make sure I see it. Yeah. So you had a mech captain for the Flash Kits, but he was not with a big mech and mega armor like we like to talk about here a lot of the time. He went for just a mega mech, the shock attack gun with the Flash Kits, and then tank busters just get their own. So I would love to see how this goes out. Now, having 5 trucks would be the rough part about this list, right? It's not that Jonathan doesn't have excellent units for dealing with all of this on his own side. Having Ghaz could be in your favor, because once you just go, you can kill all these other units. You have fight on death, which is a big factor. But the flash kits with the mega mech are a big factor of trying to actually move around with orcs. So you could imagine that this game gets a little bit rough, and he still has Breaker Boys. Now, someone's pointing out in chat that there are enough characters for all the units. No, because you don't have to play for all the leaders, but because some people are content with playing for the Breaker Boys without any war boss, for example. So there's most likely no characters on these Breaker units, and they just come out on the wall, as we don't see there being a proper character associate with them. You just see that there's the beast bosses for the beast snaggle boys, and then 2 triple shock attack guns for the Docker units. So the 5 trucks would be the difficult part here for Jonathan to crack through, and it being 2-point game made me think in such a high scoring game. Sorry, where's it going on? I just clicked it. Being such a high scoring game for like 92 makes me assume it's like Scorched Earth or the Ritual, some kind of game where you can just play very cagey and everybody score up until the end, and no one's really trying to call their wall, and they're just playing quite cagey. So anybody got details on that, let me know, you get, because I would love to know what happened there. Nonetheless, great job to Jonathan for pulling out that victory. Then he moves on to round 3, where he goes into the Tau Empire Crew Hunting Pack. So we have Ethereal Crew, 3 crew Flesh Sharpeners, 2 crew Lone Spears, and then a crew Lone Shaper. 1, 2, 3 units of crew Carnivore. So these are big bricks of their battle line units. Oh, that's kind of funny. So getting cheeky on us, huh? To go into a little bit of a horde going on here. 1, 2 10-man units of the same carnivores, followed by 2 hammerhead gunships with rail guns, and then a unit of crew farstalkers with a crew hound unit, followed by 2 3-man units of crew rampagers, and then a brick of crew rampagers. A crew rider unit, followed by 2 piranhas, and then a Vespid wing. I'm just assuming this person ran out of time and timed out. I'm just kidding. So he ended up getting a 100-point win right here. Trying to take a bunch of T3 bodies into orcs that are full of beast Naga boys that are getting the strength 6 on the wall. You know, full of just even Zagrat's unit where they're gonna bully on the wall any kind of those 20-man bricks. There's, you know, it would be a little contentious here for the battle wagon to move around freely because the railgun, that's the one thing to keep in mind that'd be difficult about this. But we do have tank busters to pop those as well. If he ends up coming out too early to kill trucks, because then your trucks get to move around freely, and you can just imagine Ghaz running through like those carnivores, their mounts, their mount equivalents. So 100-point win there. Fantastic win by that. Very fun by Evan for bringing such a massive amount of crew. Then we go on to the fourth game, which was Chaos Demon. So this is something you should expect. A lot of demons are going to be popping out. Love to see that he ended up running through them. So we have Be'lakor, a Bloodmaster, Bloodthirster, double Ren Masters on the Blood Thrones, followed by a Skull Taker. 2 10-man units of Blood Letters, followed by 2 Nurgling Squads, Plague Bearer unit, a Blood Crusher unit, a big thick Blood Crusher unit. So you guys can come down 6 inches and charge. You be very careful. They're kind of like Squighog boys, but they have 1+1 toughness on that, and then additional wound, plus they have 4 invuln, so quite potent. A 2 5-man units of the Flesh Hounds. Just imagine these are like orc boys that are like little doggos, so they punch like orc boys respectively, and then a Seeker Squad. They might have like 1 less attack, but nonetheless, very equivalent profiles. What do you expect? You're running that into War Horde, fight on death, Ghaz, wand to them, pick up multiple of those big bloodthirsters, get your screens out. Your storm boys, they don't have shootings. You have tank busters. You can actually bait them, and then you have transports. So even if they try to get into you, they'd simply have to charge your transports, and then you know, beat them up when you get out. So still difficult nonetheless, because they're fast and they're able to actually punch you out quite effectively, and they can take out Ghaz if you mess up. But taking someone like Zod to stop them from ever getting the initiative on you would just be crazy. So he got a 96-point win there, going into let me flip over to that. 96-point win there, going into those demons, Orks, War Horde, Ghaz, Beast Bosses, Beast Naga boys, just 2 excellent against greater demons. And then last but not least, going into Eldari Strike Force. So this is just the old list. You know, this isn't, we have new Eldar coming out, so not much to look at here. Avatar Canes, some Death Jesters, some Farseers, some Fugans, you know, units of Striking Scorpions, and then a big old Wraith Knight. So 86-point win there. So great job. And also shout out right here to John showing up to the chat and saying, whoa. No, he said hello. Sorry. Whoa. I'm the pilot of this list. Happy to share some of my details on the game against Lukas. I don't have time now while listening to the errands, but it can be later if that's helpful. Cheers. So shout out to Jonathan here. It's a great job for winning a GT with War Horde, and your win against Lukas as well. You know, hit me up, maybe in Facebook, maybe post it in Discord, wherever you feel like doing it and you're able to. That'd be fantastic to hear about that. And thank you for showing up into the chat. Love to see it when it gets and the bosses show up and let us know any shout outs. So that being said, one more time, let's look over his list. We have double beast bosses, 1 Big Mac with shock attack gun for that tank buster unit, Ghazghkull Thraka with his 3 beast Naga boys with twin kill zones because everyone loves AP, a war boss for those breaker boys, Zagrat Wart Naga with this big 22 size unit of Gretchen. I freaking love Zod. 2 10-man units of Snagas for those beast bosses, 3 trucks and a battle wagon, a 10-man unit of flash kits. Still bringing the flash kits. Bring the DACA, guys. Even if you're running War Horde, still try to bring some DACA. He brought just enough combined arms to get the advantage against the other heavy melee armies, and then just enough DACA to bait out the shooting armies so that he could run them down and beat the crap out of them. So I love that. A minimum size unit of Gretchen, and then 3 5-man units of Storm Boys for that scoring potential. Keep your Storm Boys safe, keep them alive, or throw some grenades before they die. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Jonathan for the undefeated War Horde list. And we move on to last but not least, Joshua Callward. So Josh has been covered on this channel before. Very respectable org player up in the UK. And here we have the Winchester 40K GT. 41 players at this event. So this is running that UKTC terrain. I'm not personally familiar firsthand playing with it, but thanks to Mr. Graham Russell that I was able to see them before. So and I've see how you would play them and have it explained to me. So let's see what Mr. Josh Colward was cooking with his War Horde list up in the UK. So we have Ghazghkull Thraka making his appearance once again. If you're running War Horde, absolutely bring Ghaz every time in this current meta, in my opinion. Subject to change with Eldar and Guard being around. Two beast bosses. Again with the beast snagga boys. Mind you, we've seen this combo since the beginning of Index to now. The beast bosses have not failed. They have been stuck in and prevailed. So triple war bosses. 2 10-man units of snaggas, followed by 1 10-man unit of boys, a breaker boy unit, followed by 5-man unit of burner boys, 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, minimum size unit of mega knobs for Mr. Ghaz, 2 5-man units of knobs with power claws, 5 storm boys, just 1 5-man unit of storm boys, 2 5-man units of flash gates, and then 5 trucks. We're going on for the full SWAT teams, full truck spam, getting stuck in, swarming the table, having a bunch of activations, having just enough killing potential that you have to respect everything that's coming at you, and then Ghaz to kind of hold it all together so all these units can punch above their weight class. So let's look at his path to victory as Joshua started hot. He started off hot with a 100-point win for his first game. So let's see what he went into because this is chewing up demons as well. So we have Space Marine. So we have a Tech Marine unit, followed by 3 heavy intercessor squads, followed by a brick of eradicators, 2 minimum size unit of inceptors, 2 5-man units of scout squads, and then 3 redemptor dreadnoughts, a repulsor, and then a repulsor executioner. So a lot of dreadnoughts here, but we got all the tools to deal with that. A little effective, elite list. As you can see that there's a lot of heavy intercessors. Keep in mind that they're more durable than you want to deal with sometimes as an orc, as they have base toughness of 5, and then they get to improve their armor save by 1 against damage 1 attacks. So those will still be there, like a little bit of kind of like an armor of contempt until -1 AP. So it gets pretty awesome, to deal with on side of a wall. But having so many SWAT teams and trucks and knobs and 5-man units, I'm sure he was just chewed through this list quite effectively. This is a Marine eating juggernaut of a list right here, as you can imagine. At least if they get into you unscathed, if you get into them unscathed, like eating Overwatch or anything. Having so many activations is just hard for Marines to deal with if they're going kind of elite heavy. So a 100-point win right there by Mr. Joshua. Then we go into his second game, where we go Vanguard Spearhead, another Space Marine setup. So again, like we're saying, having a lot of trucks and activations means that you can swarm them with pressure. Don't go a long game here because then they effectively kill you easily, but you can swarm them and overwhelm them. But this is a Vanguard Spearhead. So a bit more KG with their reactive moves coming off the table edge, being picked up and brought in on the table edge to shoot you in different lines of fire. So pressure and the trucks are important. We have 1 lieutenant, followed by a lieutenant with combi weapon, Manius Karga, Rabute Gilliman, and Uriel Ventress. An intercessor squad, followed by a 5-man unit of assault intercessors with jump pack, triple ballistas dreadnoughts, followed by Centurion Devastators, 2 company or hero units, followed by a scout squad. So we know for a matter of fact that this Centurion Devastator squad is very important to this list and how it works. Constantly being picked up and brought on table edge, getting +1 to hit and additional AP, melting stuff like battle wagons, trucks. Luckily that trucks aren't too high value for the point cost that you're paying for these guys at 370 points and the CP to do it. Well, not Ghaz, no CP because they have Ghaz. Not Ghaz, Gilliman. But very, very elite. Again, they're running out of activations, and Joshua getting a 100-point win there. Ghaz is something that could, they're going to be very respectful of as well, so they're not going to charge up disrespectfully with something like Gilliman and really take advantage of his ability to get up and get down. So kill everything around Gilliman and then kill him. So unless he really throws himself in you, go ahead and kill him then we go on to game 3, which is against the Death God. So this is the Flyblown host. I don't think this is as horrible as like other matchup when they make us -1 weapon skill and then also shooting us. I mean, -1 hit from Nurglings. So we have Biologist Purifier, Sorcerer, and Terminator Armor. He can make it -1 for one phase, -1 damage, excuse me, for one phase. Foul Blight Spawn, followed by Lord of Contagion, 2 Malignant Plague Casters, followed by a Mortarion, and then Typhus. A 10-man unit of Plague Marines, well, they'll get 5 first, and they'll get Sustain. They have a lot of special weapons on there, so they're quite respectable for just some Marines. 2 5-man units of Plague Marines, followed by 2 units of Cultists, with 1 big brick of Death Shroud Terminators with the Sorcerer, Malefic Blight Haulers, Pox Walkers with Typhus, and then 1 unit of Nurglings, followed by 2 Carnivores. They tend to tech into either Carnivores or Brigands just because they're effective at killing when you get something also in contagion range. Also in like volume attack and high toughness attack, so Morty doesn't have to do all the killing, and they're not as slow as the rest of the Death Guard army. So having Ghaz and Beast Bosses, like, again, is very difficult for them to deal with. Morty is durable enough to tank some of this. You do have to be respectable. Having Breaker Boys would make you feel even better against Morty. Just needs that one turn to pipe off with pot 5 up, feel no pain, 5 up sustain, and Morty can just end up getting cracked open like an egg. So you would think that it was still scary for the Death Guard player because big O score again, 92 points again. It's like he has MSU spam, but everything is like a nuclear little bomb that's able to just go off and crack his army off. So then we move on to his 4th game, where we have Chaos Legion of Access. So he's been going, pay attention, guys. You're seeing a lot of people from tonight going into Titans, Imperial Knights and such, because or giant big demons, or demons themselves, because people are playing high toughness skews, stuff that's kind of easy to pilot, and it's kind of a stat check, yet killing you. And then you're running into a lot of elite stuff with Marines, power armored armies, tanks, elite gun lines. So being able to run a bunch of trucks, overwhelm the enemy with threat saturations where you have knobs and SWAT teams killing you, flash kids killing your scoring units, trucks ramming, touching, scoring objectives, staying back, boys sticking objectives so your entire Orc army can move forward. A little Gretchen unit in your backfield to screen your home objective if you have to. Actually, I don't think even a Gretchen on this list. Did I just throw Gretchen in my head? No, he does. He 2 10-man units of Gretchen, so you can screen his whole backfield if you really had to. You cannot stop this momentum. It's the way Orcs play. You're just gonna die, and you're gonna just overwhelm the enemy with activations. It's not that you're really that tough. It's that everything is just tough enough that the enemy can't kill you fast enough. So don't be scared. Trade them bodies for points. So he's going for demons again. We have Be'lakor, Keeper of Secrets, Keeper of Secrets, Keeper of Secrets, Alexia Halbane, Mask of Slanesh, Plague Bearers, 3 minimum size units of Fiends, Screamers, and then Seekers. So again, very typical demons list. Orc players be familiar with it. Understanding how to respect your screening, how to not allow the enemy to simply tag multiple units by charging one and then piling into another like we would do to them. Be aggressive. Don't respect them too much because we have all the tools, and always have Ghazghkull and Beast Bosses in your back pocket clearly, because that's just a common theme going into here of why these guys are just having overwhelming victories tonight against demons and such. As having Ghaz, Beast Bosses is just super, super efficient into the meta right now. And it might continue to be with the new box codexes coming out. But now we have his last game. And this was against something that we all don't like to see. The Blood Angels Liberator Assault Group. So typically War Horde do actually have a pretty good time into these guys. But let's go over the enemy list. So we have a captain with Speed of the Primarch, and then a Judiciar. Light on characters. I like that. More stuff. So 3 units of Assault Intercessors. Awesome. These guys end up getting up to strength 6. And then they can really effectively kill on just about any of these small skirmish MSU Orc units. Gives them more activations, bunch of volume of punches at a good strength. Pretty awesome. An Impulsor, followed by 3 5-man units of assault jump packs now. So you see he's going quite MSU heavy. This is something that's different that you've seen from most of the other power armor lists that we've seen Orks go into. So understand our strengths on how we're winning those games and see that this, and this Blood Angel player is actually playing on the opposite side of the spectrum of what Orc Marines typically do, because now he also has 3 units of Ballistus Dreadnoughts, which are very cheap gun platforms, which also work well into Orcs, because 1 or 2 Dreadnoughts can I'd say 2 reliably pop an Orc truck. 1 can definitely do it also. So now you have Dreadnoughts that are going to be hard for you to kill. They can throw up the table with OC. They can use them as their delaying pieces, and they can use them to pop your trucks. Followed by 2 minimum size unit of Incursors, a unit of Infiltrators, and then he actually has 3 Predator Destructors with autocannons, followed by a Scout Squad, and then Storm Speeder, Storm Strike for, I think, +1 to wound on units as well. So he's getting pseudo version of Ultramarine shooting with his ability to, get over Oath of Moment and then have these somewhat cheap, efficient gun platforms, followed by just enough toughness, strength in these units that are punching to really help trade out in these skirmish units. That is the fundamental asset of Joshua's list. So Josh's list is, I have these trucks that you have to pop, and then there's multiple small units in here that are quite cheap and quite tough at a strength toughness toughness of 5, which is hard for you to get through, and it's a good amount of ablative wounds because it's multiple bodies. Well, guess what? I have a bunch of Blood Angels, strength 6 on the charges, and auto cannons, and Ballistus Dreadnought frag cannons that can just chew away a lot of these units. That would be difficult combined arms army for the Orcs to actually deal with. Typically, when you're going into Blood Angels, you're like, oh, you have big bricks of jump pack dudes. I'll just fight on death and do some great trade-outs with you. This would make it a little bit more difficult, so you have to play a little bit more cagey for both of these players, because he also doesn't have the big knockout blow units as a Blood Angel player to kill something like Ghaz swiftly. And Breaker Boys can just break just about any of the units on the Blood Angels list. So this ended up being a 2-point freaking game, which means anyone could win. These guys are on the same team, so I'm sure they're familiar with each other as well. That might even play into a little bit why Nicholas had such a different version of Blood Angels, knowing that he has to deal with someone like Josh's high activation, high model count, high unit count army. So great job between both of them. Coming to the end between teammates, going to blows with a 2-point game, which means anything could happen. That's one card draw away. That's one activation kill away. That's one less unit kill in the game. Anything could happen in the game. So Joshua's list was still fantastic, and it's so many freaking units and so much killing potential. I absolutely love this list, but most people don't have that many trucks. So do a battle wagon. It still works just fine. And of course, if you can, even kill rigs probably work all right, since you do have Snagger Boys, or don't bring that many trucks, whatever you want to do. So we have Ghazghkull Thraka, double beast bosses on foot, triple war bosses, because war bosses are awesome, 2 10-man unit Snaggers, a 10-man unit of boys for a sticky objective, Breaker Boy unit with a war boss, Burner Boy unit to help with those SWAT teams, 2 10-man units of Gretchen to screen your backfield, a minimum size unit of Mega Knobs, 2 5-man units of Knobs of Power Claws, a Storm Boy unit, 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, and then 5 trucks for this huge MSU having truck spam type of list. So shout out to Joshua War for the UKTC. Keep in mind that on that UKTC terrain, there are big firing lanes on one side, but on the other side of the table, there's great staging places. So I'm surprised he didn't bring a battle wagon. There's great staging lanes. A lot of time you can just take Ghaz from one L-shaped terrain in the middle and run him up the table to another one near the middle, and then line it up with Storm Boys or Ghaz himself, and not allow himself to get charged. So great staging spots and tech piece here by Joshua in the UK, making it shine, making the rise of the green tide. So Orcs still making their appearance on the scene, still getting the respect from all them gets. Yeah, War Horde is still holding its ground as the #1 detachment, supposedly. So let's see what you guys think in the comments and what everybody else has to say about which Orc detachment is still the best and on the rise. But we haven't broken through to the point that we're scaring everybody that we need a nerf with a nerf bab. And yeah, actually, Tiger Melts, we are going to do some more tactic videos on deploying. We're getting, some terrain agreements if we can to get some nice sets of terrain to help set up that, and so much more. So we are actually going to work on that for the next announcements that are coming out for tactics videos, deployment videos, units, how to use these lists, and so much more. So thanks for asking, my boy Tiger Mouse. Love you, buddy. So with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind. Is there's Fix Our List this weekend, so this Friday, so don't forget about that. So if you're a channel member, get stuck in for Fix My List. Love to do it. Hit me up with the DM. Look it over, and we can chat for a bit. Hit me up now. The sooner the better. The first people that do it are the first people are the people going to get to it. So with that being said, there's one thing to keep in mind. Is don't cross our wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!